The astrology of 2025, the 11 transits that will define the year. So, in today's episode, we will dive into the cosmic currents set to shape the year 2025. And this is a life changing year. And I don't mean to say that and sound cliche, because I know you're all going to be like, you say every year is transformative, but we said that last year, and yeah, 2024 had a lot of transformation and change on a global level, and I'm sure in each and every one of your lives in different ways. And this year is upping the ante. Welcome to Black Moon Lilith Rising. I'm Adam Asise, professional astrologer and author of Black Moon Lilith Rising, How to Unlock the Power of the Dark Divine Feminine Through Astrology, and the Black Moon Lilith Cosmic Alchemy Oracle card deck. This podcast is your safe space to explore the transformative and healing power of Black Moon Lilith, the dark feminine, goddess energy, astrology, tarot, oracle, mysticism, intuition, and more. While my book and oracle card deck, my philosophies, my astrological insights, my work, even though it's shaped through my lens as a Black woman, my work is for everyone. It is for the collective. And I've created this to inspire and empower all who seek a deeper understanding of the dark feminine within them and how they can grow and transcend spiritually through shadow work, alchemy, and understanding themselves through the astrology. So let's all rise together. 2024 had a lot of transformation and change on a global level, and I'm sure in each and every one of your lives in different ways. And this year is upping the ante. So Jupiter retrograde in Gemini will kick things off. That's going to be the first important transit that we're going to talk about, while the North Node will shift and the South Node as well will shift into Pisces and Virgo. And this is going to usher in a new focus for the collective and in your own individual lives. And we've got Venus retrograde as well this year. Black Moon Lilith is moving into Scorpio and unleashing the wrath of the dark feminine in 2025. And this is also inviting us to confront our feminine shadow and wounding as a collective. Major eclipses, and Jupiter is finally moving into a sign that he loves to be in Cancer. And that's going to be a big change and turning point in the year. So this episode is for you if you are feeling stressed, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling unsure based on the first couple of weeks of this year. You are in the right place. So now let's dive into the 11 key transits of this year and how they will influence you and the world around you. And stick around until the end, because I'm going to reveal which zodiac sign placements will experience the most change, who is the luckiest, and which one is going to unleash the dark feminine power in their lives the most. You don't want to miss that. So this year kicked off with Jupiter retrograde in Gemini. So it really didn't feel like a new year, new me type of vibe, which the new year is not really meant to be at this time. The new year is naturally spring when we move into Aries season as a planet. So there's that. And I know it's different in the Southern Hemisphere, but the way that we measure the seasons is actually through the sun's ecliptic in tropical astrology. So I'm talking about the seasons, but I'm also talking about where the spring equinox is, the vernal point, and where is the sun in position to that. That indicates that we are in a new zodiac cycle. But all that aside, it didn't feel like a new beginning. It just felt a little bit nightmarish, to be honest. And I know there's astrologers out there that are all like, oh, don't be doom and gloom, don't be negative. We've also got to promote positivity in astrology, and I get that, and I do. But it's also good for us to be empowered with what's actually going on. And there's literally horrific, devastating fires going on the West Coast in LA, in our country. And it's like, this is horrific for the people experiencing it. And it's on a big scale in a major US city. So you can't sit there and tell me, I saw some people doing this earlier in the year and not before all of this happened. And I'm like, Saturn and Neptune in Aries is happening this year. Like, let's like tell it, like, not every transit is bad for everyone. And that's another thing too. It's like, let's think about COVID. There was a big event that affected everyone on the planet. We had the Saturn Pluto conjunction in January 2020 that really was like a big collective experience. But while that was going on, there were some people who were making more money or finding their voice online or making life changes in 2020. Some people actually thrived in 2020 while others had different experiences. There's different levels to this. Okay. So that's all I'm saying with transits like this and predicting like there's going to be a firestorm this year because of climate change and Saturn and Aries, Saturn and Neptune and Aries, which I'm going to go over later in this podcast. It's literally in signs about spark and fire. So we can also take the hard conversations with the positive ones as well too. That's what I believe. So I think as a collective, y'all are ready to hear this too, because you've seen the fires, you've seen what's going on. So yeah, even there's been pew pewings. I'm speaking in internet code. You can look that up, what that means. Don't want the podcast to get suppressed, but there's been that going on, violence, what happened in New York with the poor woman who was on the train. It's horrific what has been going on and the amount of violence. And Mars rules over Aries. So I don't want to get into that yet. Let me save that for the later in the podcast when we get to that. So speaking of keeping it real, so my podcast for 2024, go back and listen to it. It's fun to listen to old ones and then you get retrospect on the year. So I advise you all to go check that episode out. And my colleague, Steph Campo, she's a fellow professional astrologer and witch, death doula, all kinds of amazing things. And she literally predicted bird flu during Jupiter retrograde in Gemini. And I want to play it. I'm going to play it right here on the podcast. And I'm just like, so like, when she said that, I was like, yes, I 100% agree. So now let's play back some receipts. I absolutely love this clip. So this is we shot this December 2023, shot over a year ago.
Last time Jupiter was in Gemini, we did have another outbreak of bird flu, and Gemini is an air sign. So it is possible that there could be some sort of airborne virus again. And, during COVID, we had the North Node in Gemini. So there could be some sort of correlation with airborne diseases kind of popping up during that time as well.
So something to pay attention to, everyone. Okay, so this is bird flu. And then we also made a prediction about social media that is so true about the climate right now with Zuck and Meta and Elania Trump, as they're calling him, with like social media, the TikTok ban. Not too soon after this, we've got Jupiter moving out of Taurus and into the sign of Gemini. And Jupiter is actually not so comfy. Jupiter is in detriment in the sign of Gemini. And the last time we had Jupiter in Gemini was 2012. This is a 12-year transit. So everyone think back to that time. Of course, we're in a different time frame, different aspects, all of that. But you can kind of see some of the similar themes that you
Mhm.
experienced back then.
Yeah. And I think Jupiter will be answering to Mercury throughout its time in Gemini. So Mercury retrogrades are going to be more impactful. We'll probably see some of the more intense manifestations of Jupiter and Gemini during Mercury retrograde periods when it's going a little haywire. But I also think so. It was June 2012 through June 2013. And that was the time that I just had started my Instagram. I was like making the transition from Facebook and uploading a giant album with like 100 photos of me sitting in my living room every night, right? Like what we used to do. And so I would be curious what's happening with Instagram around this time because I feel like this is when people were really hopping on and
Yeah.
making it the platform that it is today.
Interesting. Yeah. I remember 2012 was like, yeah, that was back when it was different filters. Like,
Yeah. Valencia, that was my favorite.
I think Valencia was mine as well too. I like that one. It's really interesting though because there's just so much going on with those networks now. You
Mhm.
know, like we have Threads now that just came out. X, that whole debacle
Mhm.
with what was formerly known as Twitter. Facebook is just not existent, in my opinion. I mean, no hate, no shade, but like, I literally don't go on it. Could there be people kind of going back to like blogging and kind of
Mhm.
taking back the power instead of relying on these social media networks in terms of owning their own audience and traffic and owning their voice and what they want to say because things are also still very much
Yeah,
I'm not
you get
the word
censored.
for it. Yeah, that's it. That's the word for
And the
it.
algorithm, yeah, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yes, censorship. That's another one as well too. So I think as a rebuttal against that, a lot of people may be going off platform or focusing their attention on building their own little ecosystem outside of these networks because at the end of the day, we do rely on them. If you use Instagram or use TikTok as your main community, you're relying on if it goes away tomorrow,
Yep.
everything you built goes away. It's like that structure, I think. And this also goes along with Pluto and Aquarius because Jupiter is going to be trine
Mhm.
Pluto and Aquarius. I think even though it's not great for those platforms, it's great for the collective to move away from these restrictive platforms.
Yeah, and this was the last time we saw a major transition from Facebook to Instagram. So who's to say, what's next? There's probably going to be some new form of connectivity. Gemini is the planet of disseminating information, sharing information, learning, absorbing, dialogue. So, yeah, I would not be surprised if there's an emergence of a new type of social media that's like a worthy competitor to what we are interfacing with now.
Yeah, and maybe one that's more independent
Mhm.
or yeah, like you not post what you want, but like yeah, like it's like you're independent within that ecosystem.
Yep.
Okay. Witches. Okay. Yes, we are. And we're still in that Jupiter retrograde transit that began last year. So there's still a continuation of those themes. And Jupiter retrograde will end February 4th. And then we'll be moving out of Jupiter in Gemini when Jupiter moves into Cancer mid year in June. So this is not going to last forever, but I think that these companies, these major media conglomerations, are in for a rude awakening as we move towards the middle of the year. As I said in the previous broadcast, the power is becoming in the people's hands. I even have been toying with the idea of like, I need to write on my blog again. Like, I used to have a blog called The Coven. that I would update regularly, and the book and all of that. Like, shove that to the side. But I'm like, I want to blog. Like, I need to build up my email list. I need to do podcasts more and really like, yeah. So I want to own my audience more. So this also is advice as well from a business perspective. As you all know, I have 15 years of experience, not only as an author and astrologer, but I was a marketer professionally. And you can use astrology to know what your direction should be. And really owning your audience as much as you can is the direction to go in as a content creator or marketer, or if you run a small business or you represent yourself in some way, like you have more of an autonomous type of job, you can still use SEO, you can still use other ways to bring in your community and getting off of these platforms. And then we've also seen the rise of, there's Neptune app I'm hearing rumblings of, there's Blue Sky that's come out. There are apps that are coming out that are going to satisfy that need to own your own audience and have a platform that's more, it's more about the community and less about driving dollars. And you own that community. You're not giving away all your data, all your information to this like scary authoritarian government. So that's all going to be hot button topics. And it's really in your all's best interest to change that if you work in communications or you use the internet or you discuss or market yourself in some way. Now start to own your audience. And you can be more authentic when you do too. As well, we have this month, on January 12th, the nodes switched. So the nodes of the moon, we've got the north node now in Pisces and the south node in Virgo. So this is wrapping up a cycle that Aries and Libra have experienced for the past 18 months of life change, direction change, and now we have Pisces and Virgo on deck. So I'm actually going to show my screen, and if you're watching the video version of this, you'll be able to see, I'm going to pull up the charts. But if you are on Apple Podcasts or if you're listening on Spotify, feel free to head to my YouTube channel and you can watch the podcast. So when we look at the north and south nodes of the moon in astrology, this is the direction of the collective. When we look at mundane astrology, or we're looking at the world on a collective level, when we're looking at big events and politics, that is the direction that the collective will be focused on. And in your own individual life, the north node, if it's aspecting a personal planet or angle, like your ascendant, your rising sign, your sun, your moon, your descendant, honestly, any of the planets, if you have planets in Pisces, the north node is going to activate that planet. So that'd be getting a personal reading and finding out where. But Pisces, this is important for you, most particularly. So the north node is the direction that you are meant to go in this lifetime. It's your North Star. It's your destiny. And it represents when it's in a sign, say you're having your nodal return. So if you have the north node in Pisces and the south node in Virgo, you check that in your chart. This literally will transform your life. Or if you have the sun forming a connection with the transiting north node, you are going to activate more of your true self. So this is a very important shift. And I think also on a collective level, there's going to be a hyperinflation of religious beliefs, cults, off the rails spiritual beliefs. I think that people are having their last, and the collective is having their last hurrah in Neptune and Pisces during this final shift into the Pisces North Node, and there's going to be a collective anger once we move into all that Aries energy with Saturn and Neptune around all of this, and a clashing of these spiritual beliefs. So this is just like hyper, yeah, a lot of the collective is going to be under a delusion, to be honest. This is also representative of water. Pisces is linked with the ocean. And we've had, since Saturn was in Pisces since March 2023, there has been a lot of water, climate change related damage and challenges during that transit. So this is also going to define the North Node in Pisces, and this is for the next 18 months. So on the opposite end of the North Node, we have the South Node in Virgo. So we have our true north and our destiny, but then on the other end of the spectrum, we have what we must release, what must be eliminated, what must change. And Virgo is representative of logic. Virgo is analytical. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and it also can represent health. It can represent hyperperfectionism. So when we're looking at it in terms of a natal chart, when we're looking at a transit, some of you may be really eliminating that need to overcorrect yourself, or how you've stopped yourself because of needing to be perfect and releasing that need. If you have the moon in Virgo, if you've got the sun, if you've got Virgo ascendant, this is an important transit for you. During this transit, we may be experiencing some challenges around farming and agriculture and crops. This is also representative of, when we take a look at just the patriarchal lens of the zodiac sign Virgo. Virgo is the virginal maiden. That is the symbol of Virgo. So it's this purity culture. It's this need to be hyper perfect. It's also the need to overanalyze the feminine. And so I think a lot of the collective, a lot of the world is coming to terms with how they may have eliminating those past life tendencies, those past life traumas and behaviors, or even early life that have kept you small. So this is going to be a big transcendent transit, and ending habits, ending health habits, routines that no longer serve you, changing how you work. And instead of being practical with your work, especially if you are creative, starting to release that and creating and doing art for art's sake. So some of you, if you are in any of the creative disciplines, you may launch a project that is in alignment with you creatively as well. So this is a big shift. So the next really important event is Venus retrograde in both the zodiac signs Pisces and Aries. And this starts on March 2nd and will go until April 12th. And this occurs every 18 months, Venus retrogrades. And I want you to note this time frame. Circle it in the calendar, think about it. What were the lessons? What happened? Because the last time we had this similar cycle was March through April 2017. And it was really interesting for me to think about that as well. So Venus retrograde is a time when the planet of love, beauty, romance, relationships, this is the Venus, this is Aphrodite, when this goddess turns retrograde. So yes, Venus turns retrograde, and it's every 18 months. So in whatever zodiac sign it is, we face certain transformation, truths, shifts in our love lives. So our relationships with others. There are also major revelations and the need to do over finances. So Venus also rules money and value. So redoing your finances, revising them. Some of you may have some financial challenges during this time and have to kind of scramble, move things around. So cleaning up after a disaster, some of you. So maybe some expenses that you weren't planning on as well. So that's coming up towards the end of Pisces season and into Aries season. And I also want to note that when Venus is in Aries during this retrograde period, she will be connected with Chiron in Aries, the wounded healer. So a lot of you are really going to realize that you have to look in the mirror when it comes to your thoughts about love, your beliefs around love. You are going to have to make some decisions and transform certain things about yourself to then transform the relationships in your life. Aries is all about the self. So a placement like this to me with Chiron, the wounded healer, that is really all about owning your wounds and healing them in order for self-empowerment. So this is going to be an empowering but sobering, I think, Venus retrograde for some of you. And of course, Aries and Pisces, you are going to feel this Venus retrograde the most. So think back to March, April 2017. This is also friendships is Venus as well. Also business partnerships. I can't forget that as well. So business partnerships are also a big part of Venus. And you are going to be revising those, relooking those over and over during this time. So the next really important event is a lunar eclipse in Virgo. And it's not only a lunar eclipse, but it is a total, meaning fully round, plump moon. So this is a powerful event. And this is on March 14th. So right in the thick of Pisces season. And the moon in Virgo will form a direct opposition with the sun in Pisces. So that's what creates a full moon, when the moon and the sun are at opposite ends of the sky. So let's hop again into the charts and take a look at this. This is a very powerful lunar eclipse. This is all about change, reveals. I think there is going to be a big shedding of, in your own individual lives, hyper-perfectionism, old patterns, old ways of being, old habits, and really transcending that into your truth. But as I said, with the north and south nodes of the moon, there is that delusion as well. So are we either stepping into delusion, or are we stepping into that higher ascended version of ourselves? You know, like there's that lack of clarity right now. But I think a lot of you may also be tapping more into your spirituality, whatever you believe in. But I'm assuming you believe in astrology because you're here. So a lot of you may be diving deeper into the mystical arts as well. That is Pisces energy, but this is also rebelling against what society thinks is right for you and stepping fully into your creative being. So whether it's you want to be the best business owner you can be, you want to help others, you want to be the best artist you can be, you want to be the best writer, you are going to step into that higher version of yourself in what you are doing. So yeah, this is a big transformation, especially for my Pisces and my Virgo. So that is a major eclipse event. And I also will be coming out with an eclipse discussion. So yes, there is a lot more we can talk about with this eclipse. So the next important transit I want to discuss is Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. And the mean calculation moves into Scorpio on March 26th, 2025. So Black Moon Lilith, and wrote about this in my book, Black Moon Lilith Rising. My light is very bright, but I'm showing it on the screen for those that are listening. But my book, Black Moon Lilith Rising, How to Unlock the Power of the Dark Divine Feminine Through Astrology, which is available. Head to the show notes to shop. But I discussed why and when I use the mean calculation of Black Moon Lilith versus the true. And so when I'm looking at mundane astrology, which means the world, this means politics, it means big events, the collective, I like to use the mean calculation. Or when I want to look at a transit, I like to look at the mean calculation of Black Moon Lilith. So just a little tip. And then in people's natal charts, I actually like to use true because it's for a specific individual. So just a little tip. But Black Moon Lilith, the dark goddess, is moving into Scorpio March 26th. And this is a powerful placement to experience Black Moon Lilith. So the last time Black Moon Lilith was in Scorpio was 2016. So Black Moon Lilith moves in 9-year cycles. So think back to around that time. If you have Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio in your chart, this is your Black Moon Lilith return, which I also detail in Black Moon Lilith Rising. Read the Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio chapter and the Black Moon Lilith return section. But you are going to really feel this. And basically, Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio is forcing the collective to confront trauma, to confront wounds, to confront feeling disempowered. There may be a lot of femicide, violence against women inflicted on people during Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. Black Moon Lilith in Libra, we saw it all in court. That's the scales, that's justice, that's the judicial system, Libra. So we saw all that play out in court around, especially around relationships. Giselle Pellico, okay, the poor woman in France, okay. Google it, won't get into it. But we saw all that in Black Moon Lilith and Libra. Now Black Moon Lilith and Scorpio, it's time to confront it, to integrate our shadow. So some of you may have gone through some trauma in 2024, lost people, experienced death, but you are going to be confronting some of what you have felt and sitting with that reality, sitting with that shadow during Black Moon Lilith and Scorpio. This is very powerful for Scorpio placements. Okay, Scorpio placements, you are really going to feel, yeah, I don't want to give away the end. So we'll leave it at that. But not only is crisis and death and transformation and integrating our shadow going to be a theme during Black Moon Lilith and Scorpio, on a collective level, there is going to be a lot of dark feminine rage with the administration that we're going into and what we're going to have to endure every day, and the rhetoric that now has been deemed appropriate and okay is being said, and a lot of us are going to have rage about it. There may also be more of a attack on women's right to choose. Scorpio rules over the reproductive organs. So Black Moon Lilith and Scorpio could be bringing an attack on that and having to deal with that level of oppression, not being able to choose. And I think that we are also going to see more of a rise globally of the oppression of women. We've seen it in Gaza. We've seen it in Afghanistan. We've seen it in Iran. Now we're seeing it in America with our, not only our right to choose, but rights across the board. People now demonizing DEI, and this is like a whole rhetoric. But the oppression is going to ramp up, but then the rage will also ramp up as well too on a collective level. So yeah. And I think this is a powerful year to lean into Lilith's message, into your sovereignty, into the divine feminine. Also practicing safety, because this is going to be, like I said, the femicide rate. attacks against women, to have discernment, because Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio also can represent some challenge, trauma, assaults. I don't want to get the podcast banned, but Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio can mean all of that. Not so fun to talk about or look at. And I discuss it deeply and say the things that I can't say here on the podcast in the book, Black Moon Lilith Rising. And this Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio season is the perfect time, the 9-month season, okay? This is the perfect time to grab a Black Moon Lilith Cosmic Alchemy Oracle card deck. Okay, so yeah. Thank you so much for tuning into the Black Moon Lilith Rising podcast. I just wanted to take a quick pause to fill you in on what's new at lilithastrology.com. First, my calendar is open for live video recordings with me. Remember, this podcast episode is not for your individual chart. So if you're curious about how to understand and navigate the astrology of 2025 and how it will impact your life, don't miss the chance to book a live one-on-one reading with me at lilithastrology.com. I'm so excited as well to finally share. They've already been out, and I just have not been great about communicating about this. But I wanted to share my latest audio offerings are available on Spotify Premium. So if you subscribe to Spotify, which I'm sure a lot of you do, you can gain access to my workshops, meditations, my audiobook right there on Spotify. And this includes my Black Moon Lilith Dark Feminine Affirmation Meditation. This is based around the magic of the goddess of the night, Lilith. This nighttime esoteric meditation is designed to help you release shadows like limiting beliefs, unprocessed anger, and disempowerment, all while you sleep. Very unique meditation. I also have recently released your Cosmic Purpose Workshop. So this is my newest audio workshop designed to dive deep into the life path, passions, and purpose of each zodiac sign. It's perfect for astrology beginners who feel unclear about their life, their direction, their purpose, or are at a crossroads in their professional journey. And yeah, if you don't know anything about astrology, you can still listen to this and gain some wisdom. And last but not least, my Black Moon Lilith Rising audiobook is available on Spotify Premium. So if you have not been able to get Black Moon Lilith Rising, but you really want to read it, you can listen to it included in your Spotify Premium membership. So this is my audiobook of my book, Black Moon Lilith Rising, How to Unlock the Power of the Dark Divine Feminine Through Astrology. And this is perfect for on-the-go listening if you want to be more earth-friendly and not buy the paperback and listen to it. This is the perfect way to do that. And this is also read by me. So all of these products are not only available on Spotify Premium, but you can also listen to them at Audible and the Hay House Empower You app. You can explore these different audio products through the links in my show notes. Thank you so much for your support, and let's rise above the intensity, passion, and madness of 2025. The next important event is a solar partial eclipse in Aries on March 29th. So this eclipse is actually, I believe, is closing out the final chapter of complete change, transformation, life-altering events for Aries. This is like a new beginning. So let's pop this up. Let's pop this up on the stage. So this is a powerful eclipse for Aries, and this is going to be at 9 degrees, and a solar eclipse is when the sun and moon form an exact connection. So there is a new beginning here. Look at where you have Aries in your chart, and you're going to step into a different version of yourself. After, like, you're leaving behind just massive change, settling into that change. And now you are stepping into a new version of yourself and releasing that over perfection and stepping into more authenticity in your creativity. But when we look at this solar partial eclipse on a collective level, this is also more of, this is just giving like war. This is giving conflict. Like we need more war, right? But this solar partial eclipse is not slowing any of that down. But I think it's going to be a elevation of war. So like a new beginning of new conflict. And yeah, we've got Mercury retrograde in Aries. Certain actions may be taken. Like, yes, I'm not going to dive too deep into it because again, I'm going to do a eclipse season online event, horoscope, all of that. So, but yeah, that's a little sneak peek on that eclipse. I know you know Saturn. We all know Saturn. If you watch astrology, unless this is your first time ever hearing of astrology, you know it's Saturn. Sometimes I'm just like, you guys know Saturn. But let's dive into Saturn a little bit. I'm going to do, again, a Saturn and Aries episode. So let's skim over it. But Saturn is the taskmaster. Saturn is the terrible, jealous father. Saturn is the lessons, the hard knocks, really turning lead into gold. Saturn is alchemy as well. And Saturn is the lead. So it's using that lead in our lives to transform a structure, to transform something long term. So Saturn is also moving from a water sign like Pisces that we've been in since 2023. So if you have Saturn in Pisces in your chart, you are experiencing a resolution to your Saturn return. So you'd be around 29 or 58 years old right now, but clap, clap. This is what this transit also means for you guys. So if you're coming out of your Saturn return, now it's time to rebuild. Saturn is all about building the structure, the foundation. So you're rebuilding a new foundation, starting over. When we think about the horrific situation in California, it's like these people they've lost their foundation, they've lost their home. Some of them lost loved ones. There's people who passed. So it's like that painful transformation through fire. And now it's having to rebuild after their lives have been ripped away. It's horrific. And Saturn, it's gearing up for more of this change of what people thought was stable and secure and long term through fire, maybe physically for some people, but also through action, through change, needing to step up into leadership of your own life. And Saturn moves into Aries also means there's a new group of people experiencing their Saturn return. So if you're a Saturn in Aries placement, come get a Saturn return reading and find out how this transit is going to affect you. But Saturn moves through the zodiac every 29 years. So this is why your Saturn return is every 29 or so years. So this is like your first one's your astrological coming of age at 29. And then you have like your midlife crisis in your late 50s when Saturn moves back again. And if you're lucky, you have a third one. And there's new things to learn. So Saturn helps us elevate, grow, and change, and turn the lead in our lives, what is truly not us, into our gold, our true self, our higher self, our sun. So this is going to be a big time of self-actualization if this is your Saturn return. But for Aries placements, if you have this in your chart, Saturn is coming here to change you and teach you some lessons. Are you not stepping up to the leadership plate, Aries? Saturn's here to make you do it. I want you all to know as well that Saturn is in its fall position in the sign of Aries. Saturn is exalted in Libra. So it thrives in the zodiac sign of Libra, which is interesting because Libra rules over justice and the law, and Saturn does very well with that energy. But with Saturn in Aries, this is the self, this is action, this is aggression, this is conflict. So we're learning lessons around too much of that, like that toxic masculinity. There's going to be some lessons learned around that. So people like Mark Zuckerberg are just flapping their lips. Yeah, Saturn's coming for the masculine as well. So for men listening, especially cis straight men that listen to me, Saturn in Aries is going to be a big time where we're going to see a lot of masculine wounds coming to the surface to be healed. But this can spark, yeah, some challenging situations from the masculine, some violence as well. So a lot to unpack with that transit. Neptune will be there as well. So this is why I'm warning about fires. We're getting into a really hot summer and the planet continuing to heat up because we're doing nothing to heed the warnings around climate change. So this is a once in a lifetime transit. And I'm not just saying that. So Neptune finally moves into Aries on May 30th. And this will last until 2039. So this is a long transit. And Neptune takes 165 years to move through the zodiac and spends around 14 years in each sign. So it's like an era. So we're moving out of Neptune in Pisces in the religious, spiritual cult delusion that is going on in the world. And we are now entering into the conflict around it. We are entering into taking action. And also the delusion in our own lives and habits and behaviors and things that were causing us to shrink ourselves, like self-sacrifice. Now we are moving high speed ahead. So Aries is the god of war. I mean, we got Mars. Mars is the ruler of Aries. Aries is a tinderbox ready to explode. This is masculine power. This is war. This is fire. This is like the purest form of fire. It's the spark. Okay. So the last time Neptune moved into Aries was April 13th, 1861. And it was there until around 1875. This was during the American Civil War, the Emancipation Proclamation. This was the document that was like the first attempt at freeing the enslaved people. Obviously, it did not come until much, much later. And the war literally kicked off on April 12th, 1861. So practically to the day, Neptune moved into Aries. And this was Aries season, right in the middle. And this lasts until 1865. So the war lasted for a few years. And yeah, it kicked off a completely different America. So this is what I'm saying with Neptune and Aries. It's like we're going to have a lot more energy. We're going to see through certain delusions in our lives, and we are going to become ourselves creatively, spiritually. But a lot of people are going to want to fight for these religious values or for these spiritual values or what they believe. There's just a lot of division as well in the United States, which we all know about. If you live here, even if you don't live here, it affects the planet. So that's just something to watch out for. But this is a long-term transit. So we're in it until around 2039. We're almost through our list. So stay to the end to find out the tea on the most important zodiac signs. You're all important, just kidding. So Jupiter moves into Cancer June 9th, and I think we will start to see some relief around the upper respiratory diseases that have been spreading around since Jupiter moved into Gemini, as we chatted about at the beginning of the podcast. But now with Jupiter in Cancer, that I think will not be the focus. I'm not saying that it's ever going to go completely away, but I think the focus on the planet is going to be at national pride. Cancer rules over nationalism, tradition, home, tribalism. So we're going to see a rise in that. And as I said, Jupiter expands things. So there may be an expansion of those hyper tribalistic type of beliefs. So on the positive side, because Jupiter is the planet of prosperity, luck, growth, abundance, Jupiter is moving out of not feeling so hot in Gemini, as we said earlier in the podcast, and is moving into a sign that he loves, Cancer. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer and thrives in the Zodiac sign. And so, of course, we got to take a look at what Jupiter's aspecting, all of that. But Jupiter in Cancer can give positive results. So we can expect luck around money, growth to expand. We can expect some breakthroughs, because if you've been feeling the pinch and restriction during Gemini, I think we can expect some breakthroughs in luck. And this is especially for Cancer. All right, so our second to last one, only two more left. Stick with me. We've got two more eclipses that are our last and final, but so important events of this year. Let's get into the lunar total eclipse. So this is the second total eclipse of the year. Crazy, right? So here we've got the sun and Mercury in Virgo. And we've got the south node. So it's like getting hit now with the Pisces, right? So this one is actually more benefic than than the other one, to be honest with you guys. So I'm liking that. I think the first part of the story may be challenging, but we've got the sun and Mercury here. We've got the south node and moon in Pisces. And we've got the moon in Pisces trine Jupiter in Cancer. So some of you could have a fabulous idea, creative idea, new work you want to do, a new vision, and you may start to put pen to paper during this eclipse cycle. So September onward for about 6 months. So I think this is going to be a breakthrough eclipse for a lot of you personally, for my Virgos, for my Pisces, Cancers as well. This is a nice breakthrough in luck. If any of you are writers, if any of you are creatives, if any of you build, if there may be some advances in agriculture. I mentioned agriculture is going to be a big topic during this cycle, this Virgo Pisces cycle. So that also can bring some reveals as well in that area. But this is a major eclipse. So now we are on to the last one. This is a big year for Virgo placements. So the final eclipse of the year is in Virgo at 29 degrees. So 29 is what we call a critical degree. This is a degree of change. It can be a degree of crisis. So on a global level, a health crisis, food crisis can also be a major part of this eclipse. When there's crisis, then there needs to come solutions, right? Famine may increase. Like, there is famine all over the world, and this is something that is a part of life and is spoken about in the stars. So this is why I'm including famine, because even though maybe you may not go through something like that, and I don't want to be presumptuous at all, but that also can be a big issue in the world for the collective. And food can also become more expensive. Supplies, materials, things that you need may become more expensive. That could be with the tariffs we may have. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we'll see. And we've got Venus in Virgo as well as part of this. So it's time to get practical. But this is also a time where a lot of the collective energy is going to be focused on health. All right, so that is the 11 transits that are going to change everything, transform everything. But the most life-changing year goes to Virgo. Virgo, you are going to have the most life-changing year this year. Virgo placements as well. So not just Virgo suns, Virgo moon, Virgo rising, Jupiter, Mars. Take a look at where you have Virgo in your chart. Pisces, you're coming in second with that. So it's life-changing for you as well too. The zodiac sign that is going to go through some lessons and structural change of long-term situations and patterns. And you're going to be stepping out of self-sacrifice and into self-empowerment during this as well. Aries placements, and this is thanks to Saturn and Neptune in Aries, which will dissolve what is no longer in your highest good. Who is unleashing their dark feminine power the most? Scorpio. I know you, I kind of said it already. So, and that's thanks to Black Moon Lilith and Scorpio. And the luckiest year, Cancers. You will finally experience some relief thanks to Jupiter in Cancer in the second half of the year. So I deem Cancers, if you have Jupiter in Cancer as well, you're going through your Jupiter return. This is going to be a nice year of positive growth for you. And that is your 2025. Thank you so much for watching me. Don't forget to hit the like button if you are on YouTube. If you are listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and subscribe to the podcast. And don't forget to share with a friend who loves astrology. I will see you all on the next episode.